Good afternoon to our friends and visitors, and welcome back once again to the Aura News broadcast. It is 6 o'clock and time again for our daily English news edition, and I'm Daniel Cook, your host, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. An audit of the customs activities for the first 6 months of this year has found a number of irregularities that have negatively affected its performance. According to a report published on the official Albanian customs website, the revenue collection is very weak and the customs debt is extremely high. There is a shortage of income from excise and royalties. The report indicates that there are shortcomings in terms of organization, supervision of employees, and management of documentation. Among other things, the audit report found a number of cases in which the documents did not justify the use of specific methods of transactions, as well as cases in which customs authorities have tampered with the values contained in their records. Multiple errors in calculations were also found. In conclusion, the audit report recommends the respect of the legal framework in the function of some key systems, including customs valuation, tariff classification, origin of goods, functioning of customs regimes, and internal control. The audit reignites the debate over the poor performance of the customs administration, which has caused the biggest shortage in the budget revenue. Representatives of the free professions held a protest today outside the Assembly against the amendments to the fiscal package regarding insurance contributions. Even though several days ago new criteria was defined that meant that they would no longer have to make insurance contributions based upon the maximum wage, the new provisions are still unclear and suspicious. The government's draft has been changed from its initial version. It now states that the insurance contributions of free professions will be paid based upon their revenue and not on the Albanian maximum wage. The reps of the free professions have said that they want a precise definition of the amount that they will have to pay, but they do not believe that they will get such an explanation. They are afraid of being driven into bankruptcy if the law passes into power. They demand that the government review the draft, making threats of civil disobedience if they are ignored. The amendments to the fiscal package are expected to be passed in tomorrow's plenary session. The students and professors who are against the reform in higher education held a protest today outside the Prime Minister's office. They announced that they will not pay their tuition fees in January and that they will ask for a referendum to repeal the law on higher education. The students marched from the university campus to the Prime Minister's office, chanting all the while against the reform. One of their leaders had this to say: "We gathered to raise our voices against the reform in the higher education system, which impoverishes the public universities and shows favoritism to private ones. We are against the increase of tuition fees, against charging the students for exams, and against police violence." The students symbolically placed a festive tree decorated with cards on which they had written their reasons for protesting. The Tirana police took precautions for public order and safety during the protest, which began at 11:30 and finished around 1 o'clock. According to a recent report compiled by the United Nations for 2015, Albania is the worst place to live in the Balkan region. This conclusion is based on indicators such as the economy, the democracy, security, crime, corruption, and other factors. The Human Development Index measures the basic human rights in 188 countries and subsequently publishes the information in the annual report of the United Nations. According to the UN report, Albania is ranked in 85th place, while Macedonia is positioned 4 places above in 81st place. Montenegro also offers more than Albania does in terms of quality of life. It is listed in the 49th place. Serbia is in the 66th place, and Greece is listed much higher in the 29th place. Meanwhile, the best country in which to live is Norway, which was ranked in the 1st place for the 12th consecutive year. It is followed by Australia and Switzerland, indicating that these are the best places to live in terms of health, life expectancy, education, and high incomes. Norway is considered to be the most prosperous country in the world for the 7th consecutive year. The report indicates that nature, high mountains, and greenery combined with a strong economy, a consolidated democracy, security, and respect for human rights, are the factors that provide a better life for people. Kosovo's leaders do not welcome the decision of the European Union not to liberalize the visas of Kosovo's citizens. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Vice Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi considered the decision to be madness and accused the EU of holding a discriminatory attitude against Kosovo. According to him, this will jeopardize the dialogue with Serbia, encourage extremism in the country, and increase the frustration of the citizens of Kosovo. He says that this is a meaningless and provocative delay, the result of Brussels' incompetence. Kosovo's Prime Minister Isa Mustafa said that isolation will not help either Kosovo or the European Union. According to him, there can be no economic cooperation between the EU and Kosovo if Kosovo's citizens and businesses are isolated. The Assembly Speaker, Kadri Veseli, asked the EU to punish the politicians and not the citizens. The EU decision comes at a very difficult time in Kosovo's politics. The opposition has boycotted the parliament and is holding continuous protests against the agreements with Montenegro and Serbia. The Democratic Parliamentary Group has gathered together a day before the planned opposition protest, which will take place during tomorrow's plenary session. The chairman of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha, said that Thursday will be a day of action and that progress will be made in removing Prime Minister Rama from office. Basha emphasized that tomorrow the Democratic MPs will reject the budget in the plenary session while the citizens protest outside the parliament. He said, "This is the last draft budget that this government will ever make. We will continue to demand the removal of this government and the creation of technical government that will prepare early elections. That is what we will ask for tomorrow through coordinated action. Our MPs will argue in the parliament against this budget while the citizens protest peacefully outside," said Mr. Basha. According to him, Prime Minister Rama has created a state of injustice that robs and violates the rights of the citizens. He says that the citizens do not accept this government and that every form of democratic protest will be used in order to remove Prime Minister Rama. He went on, "There is not and there will never be any good news from this government. There will be only bad news. Stability and the well-being of the citizens are our interests. The Democratic Party has never manipulated the hopes of the citizens by manipulating the truth. The economy has suffered and is still suffering. This is a reality that will grow still deeper if we allow it." Mr. Basha encouraged the citizens to take part in tomorrow's protest. The newly appointed ambassador of Italy to Albania declared from Shkodra today that Thursday's protest by the opposition must not become violent. In his first appearance as the ambassador of Italy, Mr. Alberto Cutiro spoke about the judicial reform. Just like his American and European colleagues, the Italian ambassador considers the justice reform to be absolutely crucial for Albania's EU integration. Cutilo made the following statement today. "Protests are a part of the democracy and the democratic life of the country, as long as they do not degenerate into violence. It is the responsibility of the opposition to be mindful of the laws and to remain in compliance with them. As long as the protests are not violent, they do not damage the image of Albania in Europe," declared the Italian ambassador. Regarding the European integration, Cutilo stressed that the reforms must be completed on time and with consensus between the parties. He continued, "A justice system without elements of corruption is a system that we all love in the US and Europe. Therefore, cleaning the justice system from corrupt elements is a process that should be considered as normal and democratic. The road to Europe is very difficult, and it is made out of many meaningful and deep reforms that require greater commitment from the countries. The justice reform is regarded as the most significant reform for the integration process. Therefore, the reform requires the consensus of all political forces, so the Albanian political forces must find a common ground for the passage of these reforms," declared Cutilo. Thanks for tuning in today for our English News Edition. We hope you have a great evening, and please join us again tomorrow at the same time. Have a good night.